Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, A Community Catalyst Inside the Success of Sand Mountain Park and Amphitheater. My name is Johnny Krosky, and I am the Content Director for the Sports Facilities Companies. It is my honor to moderate today's panel. Before we begin, I just want to go over a few quick housekeeping notes. Today's webinar is being recorded. And we are emailing this webinar recording out at its conclusion. So if you miss an insight or if you miss a question or an answer, don't worry about it. We will be sending this recording in probably about 24 to 48 hours. There is a live Q&A at the end of this discussion. So please be sure to add your questions to the chat. Also, if you have any technical issues, feel free to add those to the chat as well, and our technical team will guide you through that process. So let's set the stage for today. Now, Sand Mountain Park and Amphitheater in Albertville, Alabama has become one of the state's most impactful projects. Over the last 5 years, it has delivered $80 million in economic impact. It's welcomed more than 9,000 tournament teams and 350 tournaments, and has engaged 75,000 plus people within its fitness center. This transformation is amazing. It's not only driven economic growth, but it's also enhanced the quality of life, strengthened public health and safety, and created a destination that not just residents, but visitors alike can be proud of. Today, we'll be talking directly to Mayor Tracy Honea, as well as city leaders and project planners and operational leaders, as we walk through not just the vision, but as well as the challenges and the partnerships that turn this ambitious idea into a reality. With that said, I'd like to turn this over to our panelists to do their own introductions, starting with the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Johnny. I am Tracy Honea, Mayor of Albertville, Alabama.
And we'll move on to Mike. Why don't you give your introduction?
Sure. Mike Price, Economic Development Director for the City of Albertville.
And we'll move on to Patrick.
Good afternoon, everyone. Patrick O'Brien, Senior Vice President of Venue Management at Sports Facilities Companies.
All right, and we'll round it out with Sean.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny. Well, hello, everyone. Sean Perry, the General Manager here at Sand Mountain Park and Amphitheater in Albertville, Alabama.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so we're going to start our questions with the mayor, and we got to start at the very beginning. So Mayor Honea, why don't you talk about the vision for developing a sports and entertainment destination in your hometown, Albertville?
Gosh, okay. So for the most part, this administration that's still intact came in 2012. There had been a recreation expansion kind of in the works for probably multiple years. So it was probably one of the first initiatives that we kind of embraced, if you will, within a year and a half of being in office. So what began as just an addition of another court and just some expansion. I can go through as much detail as we want, but it kind of started there. And as we got further into it, we realized early on the importance and the need that we needed more than just that. And so, in those same early years moments, we embraced public output. We've had actually a couple of different colleges to do some studies, feasibility studies, to find out the impact and, just trying to get all the information. And so we tried to be a sponge as much as we possibly could in those early years. So, what led as started as a small development. And then we even talked about doing it in multiple phases, but it came very apparent real quick that, those phases, for as long as it takes to do these kind of developments, would be multiple years. And so, it became pretty evident that we didn't want to do that. So through all the efforts, with the council and our planning and trying to get public input, there was a ton of, information gathering in those early years where it started. but the economic impact was a huge piece of what led us to do what we, did as well, because, Albertville is just a small town, largest city in our county, only city that doesn't have a Walmart. Some of you already heard me say this, but I mean, it's just true. And so when you don't have the revenue stream, it really handicaps, our ability to do the things we need to do. So in essence, this was a true Hail Mary, I guess, from the start to get to where what we actually did. And on top of that, it was probably a God thing, because, all the stars really had to line up. And I mean, so I can't say enough about our council and our community and team members throughout that just had an impact on us getting to the place where we finally made that decision. So I know that's probably more expansion than what you wanted there, Johnny, but that kind of lays the ground for where we're at.
No, absolutely. No, that's a great answer. And I think the park is probably more fun than a Walmart. So I think that actually, so I
Absolutely.
think that works out. So I'm glad you'll make that choice. So I want to transition over to Mike. I want to talk to you a little bit about impact. Okay, so now the facility has been open for 5 years. Talk a little bit about the impact of the venue on economic growth in the area and the region, i.e. new businesses, new residents, and of course, tourism.
Sure. Yeah, we look internally at growth and economic impact a few different ways. One is just the significance of how retail tax or sales tax revenues increased since 2020. We've got a 53% increase in sales tax revenue since the park opened, which is a significant amount. That can be attributed. There were businesses on the ground the day the park opened that automatically saw a spike in sales revenue annually. Patrick can attest to the first 2 or 3 tournaments that came in town. We had restaurants that ran out of food, were not staffed properly because they just had not properly understood what was about to happen to them. And so our park does a phenomenal job now of informing our current retailers and restaurants and hoteliers what's coming, when they're coming. They send out the tournament forecast now, so they know to staff up, order up. But certainly we saw a huge spike in a lot of our current retailers just from the day the park opened. And then obviously part of that 53% increase came in the form of new retail and offerings that have opened since then. Since the park opened, the city has opened about 400,000 square feet of new retail, restaurants, hospitality, entertainment. 2 of those things, two such projects were 2 hotel projects that you could attribute, greatly or probably 100% to the park opening. We probably had a need for some different hotel options and offerings before the park, but it was really, really hard to engage with the developer or the end user about the need for that. But once the park was announced and once it got open, those conversations got a lot easier to have. These folks understand the impact that sports tourism has on their business. So we opened up a 77-room Marriott Fairfield Inns and Suites. And then shortly after that, a Hampton Inn by Hilton opened. And we'll discuss a little bit further. There's some things in the works now for additional hotels. We opened up a 10-screen movie theater that you think, okay, people are still watching movies, but it's outperforming projections. It's doing quite well. Obviously, when you have 5,500 teams come in, they can't be playing all at the same time. So there's something for those visitors to do. Plus our local area that certainly has been well received. About 30,000 square feet of new restaurants have opened since the park opened. That's Buffalo Wild Wings, Beef O'Brady's, Culver's, Whataburger, Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Those are just several of the options. And then we've also opened about 200,000 square foot of new retail. And that's includes grocery, specialty retail, clothing, general merchandise. Some of those names are Food City, Ulta, Five Below. We've got a Rural King that built a 90,000 square foot ground up here. And all of those things can be traced to, let's put it this way, nothing was harmed by having the park open. Everybody, it was only enhanced. Those conversations were enhanced by the park. Residential development, what we're seeing is younger families wanting to move back because the city has invested in quality of life enhancements here that they normally had to, quite honestly, move off to get. A child would leave, or a kid would leave from college to go to college or go into workforce. They wanted to get away from Albertville. There was nothing to do in Albertville. Now there's something. They're seeing that there's the same quality of life enhancements here that they have in bigger cities with a little bit more of a laid back area. So we're certainly seeing that. To that tune, we're working with a developer now on a 300 unit multifamily complex. It's got enhanced amenities. It's got the clubhouse, the pool, the gym. It'll be the one of its kind in our area, certainly in our city, and the only one of its kind. So we're excited about that. It's something that the city and the area definitely needs, and certainly the park had something to do with that as well. And you know, we generally just utilize the park. We utilize the visitor data. We utilize traffic patterns. We utilize the tournament forecasting and all of our marketing packages to these developers. It certainly has an impact when the developer comes to town, and they don't. And you've just met our mayor. They don't get to town without going to see the park, and we always get extremely positive feedback from the developers that are coming into town. They see it. They see the investment the city's made in the city, and that gives them a good feeling, regardless of what the feeling they had when they got here. So it's definitely enhanced economic development.
No, that's excellent. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about the partnership later, but just the partnership between economic development and the facility itself it's inspiring, and it's great to see that and see how we can work together to help elevate a city, which I know we're going to talk a little bit more about down the line.
Sure.
I want to transition this over to Patrick. Patrick, you were here since the beginning, since the first day the doors opened. So. And I'm sure a lot has changed since then. So talk a little bit about the goals that you had at the start and how they have adjusted over the years.
Yeah, sure, Johnny. I'd surmise our initial goals into a couple different categories, of which, Mike and the mayor alluded to a little bit already, but, we definitely wanted to maximize the impact, both from physical and mental health, and then also, of course, economic impact. We wanted to deliver excellent service, so the type of experience that we strived to create at the park was extremely important to us. And it was also really awesome to see the job creation, that happened within the park, because the team that got to serve and the team that we got to build, it grew right from what was there before compared to the operational needs that the park had. So that was also a really impactful thing. But our goal was for the park to be the recreation, events, sports and wellness hub for the city of Albertville and for the entire region, for the entire Sand Mountain region. So it was important for us to serve local city residents. It was also important for us, for our impact to reach beyond, the city limits, and to spread out into the entire region. And of course, now, it's a nationally recognized venue, attributed largely to the city leadership, and the consistency of that leadership and to the work that the team has done. So, through that, as we grew and evolved, like Mayor said, we did a lot of listening, and we learned a lot. I think it was really important for us to, we changed some things on how we operated and some of the programming offerings that we did according to, what we found successful. But I'm, really happy to say that our goals are really, they shifted a little bit, but they're also a lot of the same, and now we need to make sure that we're, the impact in all three of those phases is just increasing. right? And I'm really happy to say that that's happening. And the team that Sean has now in place, you know, from a job creation standpoint, is just fantastic. And you know, we see as we look at the next 5 years, we're very optimistic on all those fronts, you know, and how we move forward together.
Awesome. No, that's great. That's great. And it's great to see how the vision, starts and you sort of adjust and how that you meet those adjustments. And if you're willing to meet those adjustments and you're open, a great success can happen. I want to actually go back to the vision a little bit, and that's for my next question for you, Mayor Honea. There's a vision, but then there's consensus. You have to build consensus with the other stakeholders, with other city leaders, other people within your community. So, and I think that's an important lesson for those here in our audience today. So, can you talk a little bit how you and city leaders were able to build that consensus around the vision for Sand Mountain Park, and when the idea was first introduced?
Yeah, Johnny. I mean, from day one, I mean, I think I guess for me to encourage others, or even within our group, once everybody gets on the same page, and if you can't get everybody on the same page and get everybody to pull in the same direction, it is an uphill battle. I mean, at best for us, I think we were all as different as we all are from the administration, and then you multiply that into the different personalities within the community. I think getting everybody to see the vision or see the opportunity that we had, but to understand how important for us to get from point A to point B, all the little things that had to come about. But really the one denominator that you're not going to get there without it is teamwork and getting everybody focused on not what you want, but in other words, as we talked about being the sponge and trying to listen, I fortunately for us, I think we all had, good things at heart and wanted to do the right thing at the end of the day, whatever that was. So egos were left at the door. I think we all tried to achieve what was best for our community and what was best for us to position ourselves for the potential economic growth that we have now seen. But there's just some simple factors that in my mind, you've got to have those things for us to be able to move forward the way we have. So hope that helps.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and I just want to set a reminder, if we're starting to see some questions come through in the chat, and that's amazing. And we want to encourage those, if you have a question, please send it in our Q&A chat. And then once that question comes through towards the end of this presentation, this broadcast, we will go through and answer as many of those questions as we can. So definitely want to do that. So now I would like to transition a question over to you, Sean. I want to talk about, so we've heard a lot throughout this broadcast about economic impact, but also serving the community. And those are part of those initial set of goals and initial vision for this facility. Let's talk a little bit. Can you talk about how do you balance the needs of your residents within the community with the demands of a regional and national event or event facility? How do you manage those expectations at scale?
Great question, because as you've heard, there's a lot of expectation from a lot of different folks out there, lots of different stakeholders that had different ideas of what the park was going to do, what it was going to be like, how it was going to provide. And so there is, and my job is to balance all that, right? As a general manager here, as Patrick said, I've got a great team. They help us get after that exact issue, but it really begins with having clear priorities. I mean, first and foremost, we are a community first facility, right? It's the citizens of this great city that paid for this place. And so we do special things for them, but we also recognize the economic impact that comes with having a facility that attracts teams and recreators from across the state and the region, right, to come here. So for our residents, we offer, affordable memberships. We have scholarships in place for our youth programming sports. We offer free and low cost events like our upcoming fall festival. So we want to make sure that we have accessibility for everybody here locally. If you're not a member, we run day passes, right? So people can still come and enjoy these amenities. For our event organizers and rights holders out there, absolutely state-of-the-art, world-class amenities, right? Our facilities here, from our 15 turf fields, the amphitheater, this 100,000 square foot plus fitness center, and other parts of the park. We are here for them to come and use and enjoy as well. And that's what brings in the out of town folks. So it's good to have that kind of diversity operationally, right? To balance all this, I've got to strategically schedule and deconflict the out of town activities with what we're doing for our residents and citizens here, right? So really we focus our programming leagues during the week and try to save our weekends for member events or for out of town tournaments. The one of those, of course, was the regional softball tournament, right? We're bringing people from all over the state that come over here, but we had to balance that. So there's those kinds of challenges, which is really interesting because we want to be here for the people that are right here, right in our backyard. And we want to be here to attract other people to the area. Mike talked about the businesses that come, about the young families that are moving back here, right? So we're a part of all of that. And there's some strategic planning that has to happen, but also it's just that balancing on a scheduled basis. What can we do for all of these different organizations to be the best thing that the park can be for this city?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, no, I definitely appreciate that, and I know it can be a challenging job. It's a lot to, as Jolens. I don't know how good a juggler you are, but but it sounds like an excellent one at that. So let's talk. My next question and the next thing I would like to dive into is just a little bit of what of vision casting. What's next for the region? And this is something. Obviously, this facility has been around 5 years, excellent success, something to definitely be proud of. With like so many people, you guys are continuing to move forward. And so I want to pose this question to both you, Mayor Honey, and then you as well, Mike Price. What is next for the city and for the region?
Um, I guess as we move forward and looking at what is next, we've got several projects that are in planning stages at the park. Some is the expansion of our America League, some facilities there that we weren't able to finish as we finished construction, and we really didn't know what the impact was going to be from that program itself. And expanded playground areas in the Racket Club Tennis Center, looking at doing some expansion of pickleball courts. And there's a handful of others, some additional sidewalks. In the spring of this year, unfortunately, we had a fire at our public library. Building's approximately 60 years old. So we're having to shift a little bit of focus into that sector, because we're probably gonna have to do a complete rebuild. So through that may slow a little bit of the progress down, even though we've got some priorities in play at the park that we're not going to lose focus on it, and we're all hopefully we'll get it all done. But those are just to name a few that's park related. And within the community, we've got several things that are in the works, and I'll let Mike expand on some of those things. But again, we've got some plans that are in play. But as the old saying goes, you have to crawl before you walk, and it doesn't matter how big or little you are. Sometimes you can't get everything you want right now, and so sometimes my patients are not what they need to be, because this stuff tends to take longer than we all want it to. But at the same time, planning is crucial, and you want to get it right to start with, and that's one of the things that I feel like we've tried to pride ourselves on across the board, with between the architects, the park, the city, SFC, all the folks that have a play in this. We just want to get it right. So, but the future's bright, and we're looking forward to what that holds.
Absolutely. And Mike, I'd like for you to kind of reflect on that question as well.
Sure, I appreciate it. You know, as far as what's next and what we're going to continue to do to get there, we're going to continue to recruit needed community enhancing retail, entertainment, hospitality, and housing um, options. Um, Focusing on community enhancement and quality of life enhancement. You know, as we talk about the impact the park has, we continue to utilize the mobile mapping and visitor data that we can track with the park. We'll continue to utilize, you know, industry PR and visuals from the park. We'll continue leveraging relationships with advisors and retail recruitment folks such as Nextsite that helps push our story out as well. Um, and some of the things that we've got going that are set to open, we've got currently we've got 250,000 square feet of a regional retail center that's currently under construction. That'll include names like Target, Academy Sports, Home Goods, Burlington. There's additional retail space in that they're currently leasing up. There'll be 4 or 5 different out parcels that will have some additional restaurant offerings to be announced later. We're also working, we kind of alluded to it earlier on the hotel front. We're working with a developer on a third new hotel. This would be a 101 room dual branded hotel. Um, would be the first of its kind in our market, but I mean, ironically enough, it's from one of the same developers and owner groups of the Hamptons. So they see a need for this type product in the market, and they are not concerned with it competing against themselves. So that gives us a lot of confidence that if they see the need, then there truly is a need. And then currently we've got a couple of restaurants that are under construction. One is set to open. Longhorn Steakhouse will open middle of next month if all goes well. Chicken Salad Chick is currently under construction with a co-tenant to be named later. We've got a local developer that's doing a 50,000 square foot family entertainment center that'll contain 20 lanes of bowling, axe throwing, uh, arcade games, golf simulators, you know, pretty much everything you see under one roof that both our community as well as the visitors to our area certainly be enhancement to their stay. So we're going to continue to do those things and continue to recruit where it makes sense and try not to rest on our laurels and continue to get after it.
Well, that's great, and I definitely appreciate that answer. I think it's kind of sort of a side question to this. What when you are recruiting for to the area and you're utilizing the facility as part of that recruitment, tell us a little bit about what that process looks like. How do you push the facility forward? How do you push the community forward?
Sure. When we definitely, you know, the visual of the park, and if you haven't seen it, it is something that you can talk about and then you can see, and they're completely two different things. We we will send out information about our park. We have almost hogtied folks to get them to the park before because once they see it, they understand why we're proud of it. They understand the catalyst that it is. And so we certainly continue to use that to promote ourselves in our city for others to come in and develop. But we also use it to retain community and to enhance the community for the citizens now and for you know it's also a great industry recruiting tool. We've certainly had industry that has chosen to locate here based on partly because of that amenity that it can offer its employees, and it gives them a leg up to when they're recruiting employees for their business to say, hey, we also have this amenity that can be offered. We have industries that offer memberships to the park and things of that nature. So it is definitely there is a lot of facets to what how the park affects recruitment for various things. Housing is another one. We've had housing folks come in that want to do a development that contains some of these items, and they look at it and go, well, there's really no reason for us to put a gym or a pool here when you have this. So we'll leave that off, but maybe we'll offer a membership option for residents here. And so it's a win-win for everybody. So there's really a lot of different avenues that the park affords in terms of recruiting.
Excellent, excellent. I want to next take time to transition over to a question for Sean and Patrick. From your perspective, what does it take for a venue like this to go beyond being just a place where you play? So just the fields, or just the pool, or just the courts, and become a true community destination. We talk a lot about economic impact, but we also this is a place for the people of Albertville. And so talk a little bit about what does it take to make your venue serve that purpose specifically?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, John. I'll take that first, Sean. I think it starts with, something I alluded to earlier. This Sand Mountain Park and Amphitheater was built to improve the physical and mental health of the citizens and of the, people in the whole entire region. So when you talk about beyond, competitions and beyond tournaments, we have amenities such as the fitness center, group exercise classes, swim lessons, tennis lessons, pickleball. We have concerts, we have RV park. So there's a lot of things to do at the park that you can commit, to improving your physical health, through some of those things. You can create memories with your family, with your friends. You can go walk on our trail, outside. We have a beautiful trail that goes through the 133-acre property. And so it's about creating that hub, right, for the community. And I think the park has truly done that. And one of the reasons why is because we have so much to offer, right? So we go all the way back to the beginning, like Mayor was saying, and the city did such a fantastic job of listening to what the needs were, right? And what people raised their hand and asked for. And the city delivered on that through the design, and through what is physically there. And then it's our job as the operator to deliver on the service side, when you talk about cleanliness and safety and offering programs that the community is going to participate and engage in. Then it becomes a place that, yes, we have the economic impact in the sports tourism, but we also have, like I said, it is truly a hub for the community in both when you talk about physical and mental health and improving quality of life.
That's excellent. And Sean, can I get your thoughts on this question as well?
Oh yeah, Patrick's absolutely right, and he outlined that very, very well. Yeah, there's the amenities, and those are great, and people want to come use those. You see in the image behind me, right? There's our lazy river, right? Part of our water park and all this, and during the summer months, absolutely enjoyed by many citizens and other people in the surrounding areas that come to use that. But it's that idea of memories, is the ability. It's so amazing for me to be able to be part of an opportunity for families to spend time together outside, in the good weather, spend outside doing things, whether it is walk around the park or coming to the water park, or throwing a ball or a frisbee. They can come and spend time, and that's very exciting. We see groups of friends and teenagers, running around doing the things that they do. But we also have other resources here outside of those fields, right? So it's not just about the diamonds and the rectangle fields and that sort of thing. The basketball courts, we have, classroom space, and we enjoy a very good relationship with the Albertville City Schools, and they use our facility for a lot of their new teacher onboarding and some of their recurring training. In fact, they just had their recurring bus driver training here this last week. So we provide that for them. There are corporations that come and rent space from us to do employee training, or, as coming up here in another week, just an employee celebration event, right? Employee appreciation. So they'll use this space. But it's not just trying to rent these to the local community. We like to be able to offer up, very, very affordable opportunities for everybody to be here. So in fact, for no cost, right, we bring the United Way and host their breakfast for them each year. We have the food bank they set up in one of our larger parking lots, and we do food bank activities there, all on a volunteer basis from the employees to help them with those kinds of charities. Recently, just had Boy Scouts were out here doing a fundraiser drive, for their Cub Scout pack. So all of that is there too. We host. I don't know if we host, but we're the location for the Albertville High School prom, right? On our hardwood courts here, right? And that is, you can't get much more community oriented than that, right? So there's a lot of those type of things that happen outside of just somebody throwing a football or a baseball to another kid that we're a part of. But beyond that, I recognize that a facility like this it's a good opportunity for first time employment for a lot of our young teens and young adults. And so we welcome them in here and we train them up. The goal is that they learn how to be a good employee here at Sand Mountain Park. So years later, after they go up to college and they're coming back, they're working wherever, if they have on their resume that they were a team member at Sand Mountain Park and Amphitheater, I want the local businesses to recognize that and say, well, I want to talk to her. She's got that on her resume. Clearly, they do it right. I want this girl to work for me. So we have not just an opportunity, but I guess the obligation to provide all this for the citizens here. So it does much more than just hosting a tournament. It is we got to be interwoven into the fabric of the community.
And that's excellent. I particularly like the point you make about the employer aspect of these facilities. I think that's a critical piece that sometimes people don't always think about. That this is, for some people, this is their first job.
Right.
And it makes a profound impact on their lives if you're doing it right. And then they are making a great contribution. And to your point, Sean, it's great to be able to be that key piece within their resume somewhere further down the line. And so that I think that point is well taken, and that's excellent point to make. So my next question is the question that we love to ask, but this is our question before we go into Q&A. And guys, if you still have an opportunity to enter your question into the live chat. We have a ton of great questions, and we're going to try to get to as many of them as we can. So this question is, and it's going to be primarily for Mayor, for Patrick, and for Mike, because it's the 5-year question. It's the what didn't you know about the process? What do you know about the process now that you didn't know 5 years ago? And whether this is the process or the venue itself, or just the work that's been done, or the impact. I want to start with you, Mayor. Just talk about what do you know now that you did not know 5 years ago, and then I'm going to ask you the secondary question of what advice would you give to? We have a lot of leaders that are in our audience, and what advice would you give to them if they want to pursue something like this in their own community?
Johnny, those are good questions. What I know now that I didn't know then, this could take a lot of time. But I think the big thing is the amount of effort. And when I say effort, it's the work embodied by so many different people. I mean, this park, ours is a city, city owned, city driven, managed by SFC, which, I consider our SFC team here locally part of the city family, even though it's, run separately, different, so, it has some challenges, but at the same time, it's just, we're all on the same team. And I think something that is the constant, we have to wake up every day knowing that we've got work to do and there's an opportunity to improve. And I think just trying to create that unity. And and is that something I didn't know then? Not so much, but yes, in a way it is, because the park here is so important and so vital for this community and for the city. Sometimes, that's just that's just an everyday piece of the puzzle that we just strive to do better. And Sean, Patrick, and everybody that we deal with on the management side there, I mean, it's a constant effort every day trying to adjust and adapt to whatever passes are being thrown at us. So what was the second question, Johnny? I'm sorry.
Second question is advice. What advice would you give other community leaders?
Um,
This.
I spoke earlier about the unity. I think trying to really get everybody on the same page. It is tough enough. This project. I would be. I don't make any bones about it. This project has been probably one of the best things that's ever happened to a lot of us in the sense of just the opportunity of going through it, but it's taken a lot of work. And if you're not willing to be a true team player and trying to really, work through, especially if it's a facility that's, city part, I mean, there's so many elements that have to really come together. So just, and I can't say, plan, be a sponge. There's probably other things I would give advice to, but patience, patience has got to be up there at the top because I don't have a lot of patience. But these things take time. So the encouragement to me is if you're going to do something, do it right and take whatever time is necessary to get it right. And for us, this was a long process. I mean, from the time we started to the time it opened, was probably, I don't know, Mike, 7 years, give or take, I mean, so there's a lot of pieces of that puzzle. So, just, anybody that's thinking about it, just be encouraged and let the sky be the limit.
Absolutely. And I pose that question to you, Mike.
Okay. One of the most interesting things to me in what I do is what has been impacted by the park that I don't know that I would have ever thought would have been impacted or that we ever discussed being impacted. You can obviously, hotels are going to be impacted, restaurants, retail is going to be impacted by the park, and specifically by the sports tourism that it is associated with it. But we've got an auto dealer in town that attributes at least 2 cars a month to out of town visitors. It's just not something that I would have put on the bingo card that, okay, we're going to sell more cars because of the park, but absolutely we are. There's also a home supply store that you would never think that people are going to come to the park for one tournament. And then when they come back, they bring their trucks or they rent a U-Haul because they saw some tile that they can only get here in this market or some building supplies that they needed to get. And they leave the city after the tournament with a truckload full of merchandise. So some of the things that we never would have anticipated have been impacted, and which is just kind of to me, is just a cool nugget. But as far as advice from my side, the mayor's right. I think I'd just say one size does not fit all. You just know who you are as a city or an organization. And take your time. And once you're focused on what you want to do, you have to be laser focused with at the same time of the ability to have an open mind and pivot, because there is no telling how many meetings we had where we started in one direction and ended in a completely different direction. And it was because of input from other people or things that you don't know what you don't know till you hear somebody tell you. And the mayor and the administration did a fantastic job of we didn't just have local swim coaches come in to talk about the pool. We had, collegiate swim coaches come in and talk about the pool. And we didn't just have concert goers and things talk about the amphitheater. The mayor put an emphasis on our band program and the high school and what they needed in an amphitheater. So it's just getting as much information and never shying away from changing your mind if something hits you differently.
That's excellent. Excellent. And just real quick, Patrick, I would like for you to give your thoughts on this question before we transition into some of our Q&A.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, especially in the beginning, I think like Mayor said, I mean, it took a lot of hard work. I would say don't ever lose sight of the impact that these facilities have. you know, it's not to say that I always knew about the impact, but I think, you know, when you're going through it, especially in the early stages, and, you know, looking ahead to what is coming, I mean, and what this project did and has done, sometimes, especially early on, I did lose sight of that. And I think that would have helped get through, you know, some of those tough days. And I would say on the advice side, I think, you know, attention to detail is extremely important. Everything that Mike and Mayor were just saying, you know, when it comes to listening and all the little things in these type of projects matter, right? So design and teamwork and, you know, making sure you're catering to all the populations that you need to cater to, and as much as you can do to provide, you know, maximize utilization and impact at the park. A lot of times those decisions along the way, some of them are small, but they have very, very big impacts. Like example would be, you know, us including a Miracle Field. You know, that decision has cascaded now into a transcending impact that the park is going to have, you know, for generations to come, because we have over 250, you know, Miracle League players. And, you know, how many volunteers now, Sean? Over what, 250, right? Volunteers,
Yeah,
300
one for each
volunteers.
player. Yeah.
Yeah, like that decision has changed the city of Albertville forever, right? And so if you go back to that moment in time and you think about how that decision, you know, the impact that decision had, is just unbelievable, you know. So those are some things I would say on the advice side, Johnny.
No, that's awesome. That's great. It's specifically the Miracle Fill piece. That's wonderful to hear, and that does have a cascading effect, and that's great. Well, we've talked about some of the wonderful things, and now we have a bunch of questions as part of our Q&A chat. One question that came from a lot of people who asked this question, and I want to pose this. I think, Mayor, you might be the person to speak to this question. Let's talk a little bit about funding of a project like this, like talk about cost initially, and then how does the funding of the project of this scope come about, and how, at least from your standpoint, in your situation?
Well, you know, again, once we got to the place where we were going to throw the Hail Mary, so to speak, our situation, we didn't really seek outside funding. You know, maybe we should have, but I don't know that there was a lot of funding available, you know, be it grants or be it other things. And if there were, to this day, I don't know that I'm aware of anything. And Mike, you or Patrick can chime in on some of this, but as we got through the planning process, and once we kind of arrived at what we felt like we wanted to do, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, and again, some of you guys, y'all welcome to pick up where I may leave off, but in 2017, you know, we basically put a 1 cent sales tax that would go for capital improvement that would help fund the park. Now, that number was not, at that time especially, was not going to pay for the park totally, but it would help kind of do what it was doing. And it was probably a twofold approach, because in that midst, our retail development efforts were, you know, and that was a day one thing. We had to change the direction of our sales tax base. And so retail development obviously is where that's at. But I think by that time we realized, you know, and through the studies, the impact that was going to have. So, you know, long and short, it was a 1 cent sales tax that was put in 17. And I think because we had brought in so much community involvement, we actually had a standing ovation at that time that the city passed it, which was probably unheard of. But we were probably crazy. I mean, you know, again, when we got to the number that we were going to spend on this park, you know, again, because we had gone through so much effort, so much stuff, I think we were sold enough on it that this is just where we were, you know, and so we were committed. And so, long and short, it was a 1 cent sales tax that kind of helped put us where we're at. So Mike, you may want to expand a little bit on that if I missed anything.
Yeah, no, you hit it. It was the 1 cent sales tax was what was used to pay for the bond issue that paid for the park. The one thing that was unique about that is it was based on the sales tax that was being collected at the time. So had the park not had the impact that it had, the city still would have been able to pay for it with the existing sales tax base. And I think that is important because it wasn't so overreaching that the city was going to bankrupt if it didn't have the effect that we thought it would. Thank goodness it has, and as you can see, 53% increase since it opened. But yeah, that was it, and he's correct. That's the only time I've ever seen a standing ovation for a sales tax increase.
Wow. And there's some questions also about the cost of facility, which if you like, you can answer that. Obviously cost of facilities change over the course from between 2020 and today. So, but there is some questions in regard to that. Do you want to comment on that or?
Our total cost, I mean, as we stated early on from the expansion, the first initial cost was between 5 and 6 million. Then it went to 20 million. I'm giving you the abbreviated version. Then I think it was 36. Then it went to 60. But long and short, we wound up at about probably just shy of 90 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Mayor. Next question that's asked by a number of people is what types of fields do you wish you had more of, or what type of, and I'll broaden that to amenities that you wish you had at this facility, if there are any, because this facility is pretty comprehensive in terms of the amenities that it possesses. And that's a question I think any of you guys could probably chime in a little bit on that one.
Well, I'll go ahead and start, and somebody else may have some other thoughts on it. And um, it's always nice to want to grow because you have a demand, right? And we have that. I was in a conversation just this morning, in fact, with our partner at the Sand Mountain Volleyball Alliance, and we've got 4 indoor volleyball courts, and we run tournaments here, throughout the season. But we're competing with venues that have upwards of 16, and they do pretty good on bringing teams in there because they can put them all in one location. Now we've got wonderful relationships, and we can have our 4 courts active, but we're also working with the high schools to get the local high school gym, volleyball courts that we can use for some of the tournaments, and just to have everything under one facility would be nice. But with the 130 acres that we have, I think there's not really the space to do that without having such a variety. And it's that variety of what we have that is really one of our 3 uniques. Yeah, because you can come here for a baseball tournament during the summertime in the morning, finish up, and you can be right over here at the water park that afternoon, right? Where you don't get that at other locations. You can come into the weekend for a basketball tournament, well, not a basketball tournament, but for another event, and then stick around because we've got a concert later that night. And that's not just here at the park, but other activities and locations around the surrounding areas. But volleyball would be one. Soccer is hugely popular for us, and we've got 5 rectangle fields out there. So we run youth and adult soccer out there. Adult softball is another big one for us. We're just getting ready to kick off another season of adult softball and church softball. So outside of just supporting the youth baseball and softball, adult softball is another one that's picked up. And then more recently, flag football has been a big thing. But right now it's about scheduling, and we can have it. And we like to think that everybody that needs to get in here can get in here, and we can support them in a very strong and helpful way.
I think that's an excellent answer. And I want to move on to the next question because I want to get at least one more question in here. And this one is also for the mayor. It says, we mentioned a good bit about getting people on the same page. And there's a question about when you talk about getting certain folks within your community on the same page, Can you elaborate a little bit on, at least give a little insight on who are some of those people within the Albertville community?
Or, you know, stakeholders is one, but in our case, you know, our city administration, you know, you've got my position, you've got 5 city council. At the end of the day, city council has to vote, approve anything that goes on. So it's imperative to get those people on the same page. But it doesn't really stop there. I mean, it goes into what I talked about earlier. I mean, it's your stakeholders, the people that you get in within your community. You've got to get buy-in from those people, and to get that, you've got to do enough studies, if you will, or gather enough information to where it's not you telling somebody this is what we need to do. It's because of this. And you know, part of what we found out early on through one of the studies was one of our biggest needs was activities for youth. There's nothing for our youth to do. No, you know, and part of some of the things, and I'm paraphrasing some of this, but quality of life was another big one. You know, at the time, Albertville had absolutely nothing to offer. I mean, yeah, we had an old recreation center that most cities have, or most small communities have. But what we really tried to do is encompass, you know, in our area, and I say North Alabama in general. I mean, we're adjacent to Gunnersville, which is a beautiful small town with a 68,000 acre bass fishing lake that, you know, a lot of people like to come to. We've got a beautiful state park that has a lot of hiking and biking and different activities. So through all that, you know, we tried to enhance opportunities that would bring all the stuff together, that each would kind of help the other one, so to speak, bring people in. But as far as getting people to buy in, it's I guess you start with the decision makers. If this was a business, it would be whoever the guy is that's going to have to write the check. You know, that's who you got to get the buy-in from for the most part. But there's other pieces, and I don't want to belittle any of it, because I think mayor council is huge, and that's where you ultimately got to get those people on the same page. But it goes further than that. I mean, and if we're not listening to our community in a very methodic way and trying to come up with those decisions, it's you know, it can be an uphill battle. So I hope I've answered that question without.
No, that's excellent. No, I appreciate that. And also, and so that's about all the time we have for questions today. Once again, I would like to thank our panel, Mayor Honea, Mike, Patrick, and Sean, for taking the time today to educate us about some of the great things that are taking place in your community and inspire other communities to do the same. Once again, I know there are a number of questions that may have not have been answered, and we will get those answers out to you. Plus, we'll also get the recording out to you all as well, probably within the next 24 to 48 hours. Once again, thank you guys for being a part of this webinar, and we're signing off.